Hello there. Let me just make sure I'm live in the group where I'm supposed to be. If someone can drop in the comments that they can hear and see me, that would be awesome. Today we are talking about fear and how to lean into it, because it's part of the life experience. We can't make stress go away. We can't make fear go away. Yet it really can sabotage our success and our goals and our dreams. And even when we have a lot of fear that we store in the body, or we let it ruminate in our brain and we don't do anything about it, it can contribute to low back pain issues, neck pain issues. So today we're going to be talking about what to do if you have a lot of fears and worries and it's causing a lot of anxiety and stress. And you might even notice that it affects your physical body. So if you can relate, just comment below. If you can hear and see me, help a sister out and comment below and we'll get right to it. So this work today is going to complement this week's podcast issues. So you can go head over there when we're done here and listen to that. And also 2 weeks ago, we started this conversation on fear in the Facebook group. So you can head over to previous episodes. Today, I'm going to give you a couple of restorative postures that you can use to help with the physical issue. A lot of the times, fear crops up because we want to control our external environment. And if we have doubt that things might not go our way, then a lot of the times we tend to hold it in our neck and jaw or our throat, for example. Or maybe you work at the desk a lot during the day and you're tight on deadlines or that sort of thing. And that fear and that worry if you're going to meet your goals or numbers or whatnot, that might be held in the shoulders and you might turn in like this. And so these postures are also very good physically to reverse some of the sitting, and especially sitting with stress and tension. Okay, so a couple ways to go about today. If you want to meditate, I highly recommend these restorative positions, or you can grab pen and paper and journal it out. Up to you what's going to serve you best. So let me just show my mat here and get this chair out of the way. And I'll show you two positions that are really wonderful for reversing sitting. Let me make sure you can see my mat. Very good. Okay. Awesome. All right. So the first position, you need a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, no problem. You can lie flat on the ground, or maybe take a throw blanket off your couch and just fold it up so it's flat and makes a shape like this. That can work as well. Then you want a pillow or a blanket for your head. So you can use two blankets, or a blanket and a pillow, or a bolster and a blanket if you have that. All right, then next, it's very simple. You're just going to sit right in front of that bolster. And some people, their low backs need a little bit of space between the bolster to make it feel more comfortable. So you decide. You can try both ways. You can snuggle up right up against the bolster, or you can give yourself a gap. between the bolster and your low back, and then just slide back. Two options for the legs. You can walk the feet wide, allow the knees to fall in, or you can straighten the legs. So this posture is really great at reversing the sitting. And you can really vary the height of what you lie on, what you lie your spine upon, and that can help to solve any low back discomfort that you might have in the pose. If you have any difficulty with the pose, just if you're watching this on the replay, just hashtag replay, let me know in the comments, I'll help problem solve. And then from here, I'll talk you through a guided meditation, but let me show another option that's a little bit more intensive. But I love it. It's a supported fish pose using 2 blocks. Okay, so second variation, if you want a little bit more of a back bend and you don't have a low back issue, then this next option might be appropriate for you. By taking a block, tall side, and another block, medium height here. And that one is going to go in between your shoulder blades. Head is going to go on the tall height. Now, if this is too tall, too pokey, it feels uncomfortable, then just drop them both down a notch. So you have flat here and medium height there. Blocks are like Tetris. There's many ways to use them so they help the body mold. That's like puzzle pieces coming together. They're also like Goldilocks, right? You got to keep trying till you find that perfect porridge and perfect bed and etc. So similar to how we use the bolster, this time there is going to be a larger space between the block and your low back, so that lower block can come right in between your shoulder blades. And again, the taller block will go right underneath the back of your head. Oh, for me, this is so lovely to get right into the chest, the front of the shoulders, even my abdomen. As you know, I'm healing from a surgery, so I'm working scar tissue here, opening up through the front body. Again, you can keep the knees bent, allow them to fall together, or straighten the legs, some palms to the ceiling. And just be. Right? Sometimes fear catches us by surprise. And you want to allow time in your day, or for sure your week, to process it. I'm going to come back to the computer, but you feel free to stay in the restorative position or know that that's available to you. It's a perfect thing to do at the end of a day. So sometimes fear catches us by surprise, and then it gets stuck in our head, just cycling through there. And we think of all the things that can go wrong. It's like that song from Tom Petty, right? Most of the fears that we worry about don't happen anyways. Sometimes they do, right? Again, part of the human experience. None of us have a crystal ball to determine what will happen or not. And worrying is not actually going to make the whatever you're worrying about decrease the risk that it's going to happen. So here's what I do personally. So sometimes I just need to feel it in my body. When I know that I'm stressed out or have the fear, my heart will beat fast. I usually feel a pit in my solar plexus, a heaviness. It's even associated with dark colors, black, or there might be a feeling of dread. I feel tension at the top of my shoulders, my hands get clammy. All these things tell me that I'm stressed out, I'm in fight or flight, I'm worrying, I'm anxious. And so if I have it available to me, I will lie down in this posture and just feel and breathe through it. And I'll communicate with my body, like, what does it need? If that's not available to me because maybe I'm in between clients or I have a call or I'm driving or whatnot, then I'm going to still explore the feelings if I can, but I'm going to help to reduce the fear or process through the breath. So some of you know this, just doing a long exhale. If you want to count it out, you want the exhale to be twice the length of the inhale. So that's one way to go about it, just breathing out. More importantly, though, right? So the restorative posture, the breath, those, even though they're very helpful from downregulating the nervous system or reducing stress or kicking yourself out of that fight or flight, in some ways are a band-aid, right? They're not getting to the root source of what is causing the fear in the first place. And that's often the missing link. Often that people skip over this part. And so you want to ask yourself, why am I afraid? Like, what are all the thoughts in your head? Write them down, the worst case scenarios. Get it out of your head and onto paper. And sometimes that process is enough. Like, I can look at one of my worst fears and I laugh about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous. Like, doesn't even make sense. That's like so far fetched. There's very low risk that it could happen. That's just really silly that I even think that way. And that will help to reduce the fear tremendously, right? So sometimes that's enough. But sometimes some of those thoughts that you write onto paper might be some patterns or beliefs or habits that have been prevalent through your life, just based upon your own experiences or based upon maybe what an adult has taught you as a kid. And that's the work. That's what we need to investigate. Are those some of those beliefs, are they triggering you or lowering your threshold, your capacity to handle challenge and fear? And so one solution might be to work with some of those thoughts and beliefs. And that's what I do in my Catalyst program. That's what I do with my VIP people, my one-on-one people. Another way to work on it is to write out solutions. So for all these fears that are happening, let's say worst case, they actually do happen. What are some solutions to this problem? So some of you might know, you can head over to my homepage if you want to check it out, or you can even head to the podcast. And in this week's episode, I give a lot of examples of personally situations where I had a lot of fear and what I did that was self-sabotaging, and currently what I do now. Or most recently, you know, I had a hysterectomy in December that was for cancer prevention. And it was a hard choice to make, but I did have a choice, right? I had two choices. I could live with my organs inside me and be at increased risk. That might cause some fear and discomfort. Or I can have the hysterectomy and all the risks of surgery, and then also be put into a medically induced menopause at an earlier age. Also comes with fear and discomfort. So both not desirable, but I do have a choice. And I have a really good Western medicine team. So I wanted to increase my likelihood to continue to do the work that I do, to be the mom, the wife that I want to be. So I went with the surgery. But even though I had made this choice, that doesn't relieve me of all the fears, because now I'm having other fears, like what will happen with my body? What will happen with my hormone levels? How will my body react to my organs being dramatically taken out? And specifically, I was really worried that I wouldn't be creative. I wouldn't feel those sparks of inspiration, because I don't know if any of you females listening ever tune into your cycle. I found it so fascinating. But every time I ovulated, I would have huge sparks of creativity. I'd be really outgoing. I'd be pretty articulate. I'd have a lot more energy. I'd come out of my little hermit shell. And so for me, ovulation was a great time of the month. And if I wasn't ovulating, if I didn't have my ovaries, what would happen then? Right. So for me personally, I had no control over that. Right. I had no idea how my body would respond. I have the option of working with a hormonal doctor if needed. However, my oncologist really didn't want to go down that path because of its increasing risk of cancer. I am working with my naturopath for some subtle and subtle homeopathic remedies and tinctures and that sort of thing. But it's definitely not the same as having all my reproductive organs in place. So what I did was like write out all my fears, right? And so worst case, I didn't have the creativity the same way that I did before. And I think this happens with a lot of my patients and my clients that I work with, is that they have an injury and they fear that they won't get back to normal, right? But here's the thing, as we all grow and evolve as human beings, as we're put on the earth and we are we encounter challenges, or we just gain more wisdom and insight each time we travel around the sun, we're changing and we're growing. So what is normal anyways? It's really relative. And what is the worst case if you become someone new? If you let go of that old identity of what was working back then, just completely let it go, which in itself can cause a lot of fear. But that's what we lean into. That's what we work with. And that's why it's really helpful to have someone to work with. But we release it to make way for a new you. And doing this allows you to let go of the reins of life, right? Sometimes, again, fear and anxiety can manifest because we're trying to control the world around us. So we grip onto life so strongly. Or we can be so rigid with how we structure our day, or how we want our kids to behave, or our business to how we want to show up in the world, or our business revenue, and all these things. There's can be all these rules. And if one thing falls out of place, then all the plates come tumbling down. But what if we could just introduce more flow, right? Things happen. We have the capacity to handle a challenge. It's going to be okay. It might not be perfect, right? It might not be ideal, but it'll be okay. And I think some of that gets into some deeper philosophical conversations of what is okay, what's acceptable, and that's really personal and individualized based upon, you know, you and your boundaries and your limitations. But if we can introduce more flow, then we have the capacity to handle more without moving into that fight or flight response, which when we live here chronically 24/7, that can introduce so much havoc on our nervous system, so much havoc on our physiology and biology and our organs. And that's what I really explored the last 5 to 10 years. I've been so curious about this work, and with my own cancer history, like really living it. And I'll tell you, there is a huge, profound difference from waking up in the morning with anxiety and fear and allowing that to propel me forward. Like, I have to get out of bed because I have to do this, or is going to happen, right? I think of all the worst case scenarios, or what happens if I don't get all my stuff done on my to-do list. And that fear gets me out of bed. And it's fear that drives me throughout the day, versus allowing inspiration and just enjoying life in the present moment allow you to get out of bed. It's very, very different. I go through my day now much more open-minded. I feel a lot more, which is not necessarily comfortable. But I feel like overall, I'm enjoying this human experience a lot more than I ever did when I lived in my rigid box filled with worry, anxiety, and fear, and I was trying to control everything. Because you know what? We can never control everything anyways. If one thing, that Lynch syndrome and cancer at 38, even though I know a ton about health and wellness, I take good care of my health and wellness, can show me, is that we never have the ability to control everything. And if we open ourselves to possibilities that might be outside of our awareness, that can happen. So yes, maybe sometimes some bad things happen, but I guarantee as well, also some magic will happen. So when you close the door to life because of worries and fears, you're also closing the door to potential, to hope, and to possibilities. So that's your work for today, is to get to work and start journaling. Why is this fear here in the first place? How does it feel physically in the body? Maybe try one or both of these restorative poses I showed. If you feel stuck, reach out to me. You know, you can always hop on a call. I'm happy to help you. We're going to go over what's going on, what hasn't worked in the past, and why. We're going to get a plan. I know you deserve to live a happy human experience. Have happiness, joy, move through grief, sadness, fear, stress, anxiety. Be present with your family. All these things. So if you want to talk with me more, you can comment below or just jump on a call. And I will see you next week. Okay? Bye for now.